The emergency beacon cut through every communication channel across the Galactic Council's network. Ambassador Rena felt her secondary heart skip as the priority alert flooded her neural interface. Something had triggered the highest level of security protocol, something that had not happened in 300 cycles. She rushed through the crystalline corridors of the council headquarters, her robes trailing behind her. Other ambassadors were converging on the central chamber from every direction. The Qualthon species prided themselves on diplomatic composure, but Rena could see panic in the faces around her. The Drellic trade master was practically running. The military observers had already sealed themselves in tactical positions. The chamber doors slid open to reveal chaos. Holographic displays covered every surface, showing sensor data that made no sense. Ships appearing in multiple locations simultaneously. Vessels phasing through solid asteroids. Energy signatures that violated every known law of physics. "Impossible," the Drellic representative muttered, his translator struggling with the dialect of disbelief. "The sensors are malfunctioning." Rena pulled up her own data terminal. She had spent 40 years analyzing threats to the Council. She knew malfunctions from reality. This was reality, and it terrified her. "Where are these readings coming from?" she demanded. The sensor technician, a young Frel with nervous antennae, brought up a star chart. Red markers dotted the display across 15 sectors. "Outer Rim Territories, Ambassador. The readings started 6 hours ago and have been increasing exponentially." Rena studied the pattern. All the locations had one thing in common. They were along human trade routes. Humans, the thought sent a cold wave through her torso. The species that had stumbled into galactic society barely 50 years ago. The Council had given them basic jump drive technology, the kind every civilization received when they proved capable of basic spaceflight. It was standard protocol. Integrate them slowly, keep them dependent on Council infrastructure, maintain stability. Humans had been grateful, too grateful perhaps. They had taken the technology and asked for nothing more. They traded their agricultural products and cultural artifacts. They sent students to Council universities. They paid their fees and followed regulations. They were model junior members. And now this. "Pull up the classification files on humanity," Rena ordered. The display shifted to show Earth, a blue marble orbiting an unremarkable yellow star. The file labeled them as pre-FTL merchants, harmless, technologically limited, no military threat, economically insignificant. "How old is this assessment?" Rena asked quietly. 43 cycles, Ambassador." 43 cycles. Nobody had updated the human files in 43 cycles because nobody thought they needed updating. Humans bought Council technology. They did not make their own. "Get me visual confirmation," Rena said. "I want to see these ships with actual imaging, not just sensor ghosts." The technician worked frantically at his console. Long-range telescopes across 3 sectors aligned and focused. The image quality was poor at such distances, but it was enough. A human cargo vessel hung in space, its hull marked with the faded paint of a commercial trader. Nothing unusual about its appearance. Then it moved. The ship did not accelerate. It did not engage engines. It simply stopped existing in one location and appeared in another 3,000 kilometers away. Then it did so again, and again. Each jump happened instantaneously without the telltale energy buildup of jump drives. "That is not our technology," the Drellic trade master said, his voice hollow. "That is not anyone's technology." Rena felt her hands shaking. The Council had maintained order for 10,000 years through careful control of advanced technology. Species advanced at predictable rates. The Council guided them, restricted them when necessary, prevented any one civilization from gaining too much power too quickly. Humans had been restricted to basic jump drives, the kind that took hours to charge and could only move ships a few light years at a time. The kind that every species used for the first few centuries after joining the galactic community. Whatever those ships were doing, it was not basic jump drive technology. How many human vessels are showing these capabilities? Rena asked. The technician checked his data. We are detecting 17 so far, Ambassador, but our sensor coverage is limited in the outer rim. There could be many more. 17 confirmed. Probably dozens more. And if humans had retrofitted their entire merchant fleet with this technology, there could be hundreds of ships out there that could move faster than anything in the known galaxy. What is the Council military assessment? Rena turned to the observation deck, where Admiral Torvin stood reviewing tactical data. The Admiral descended to the main floor. His species, the Vroth, had served as the Council's military backbone for millennia. They did not frighten easily, but Rena could see the tension in his posture. Our preliminary analysis suggests these vessels could bypass any defensive perimeter we establish, Torvin said carefully. If they can phase through solid matter as the data suggests, conventional weapons would be ineffective. Are they armed? Someone asked from the back of the chamber. Unknown, the vessels appear to be civilian cargo ships, but if they wanted to weaponize this technology, Torvin did not finish the sentence. He did not need to. A civilization that could make cargo ships untouchable could make warships invincible. We need more information, Rena said firmly, forcing authority into her voice. Send a diplomatic envoy to the nearest human vessel, open a communication channel, find out what we are dealing with before we assume the worst. And if they are hostile, the Drellic representative demanded. Rena looked at the holographic display, at the ships moving through space like ghosts, at the impossible data that kept flooding in. She thought about humanity's file, gathering dust for 43 cycles, while an entire species had been doing something no one had bothered to monitor. If they are hostile, Rena said quietly, then we are already defeated, we just do not know it yet. The chamber fell silent. Somewhere in the outer rim, human ships continued their impossible dance through space, and the galaxy held its breath. Admiral Torvin watched the tactical display with growing unease. His task force consisted of 12 military vessels, the best the Council could assemble on short notice. They were closing in on a single human cargo ship that had been flagged by automated sensors. The ship called itself Prairie Wind. Registration showed it as a grain hauler operating out of a human agricultural colony, nothing threatening, just another merchant vessel doing routine trade runs. Except routine merchant vessels did not make his targeting computers scream with error messages. Distance to intercept, Torvin asked his navigation officer. 400,000 kilometers enclosing Admiral, the human. Vessel is maintaining standard commercial speed, no evasive action. That was something, at least. If the humans were preparing for conflict, they would have already demonstrated their superior mobility. Instead, Prairie Wind continued on its plotted course as if 12 Council warships were not converging on its position. Torvin had spent 60 years in military service. He had fought pirates, negotiated with warlords, and maintained peace across 100 contested systems. He understood threat assessment. He knew how to read enemy intentions. But he had never encountered anything like this. The file on humanity sat open on his secondary display. He had read it 3 times during the journey. Humans had joined the galactic community 52 years ago when their primitive fusion rockets had attracted Council attention. First contact protocols had been smooth. Humans were curious, eager to learn, and refreshingly honest in their dealings. The Council had gifted them jump drive technology, as was customary. The technology was deliberately limited, of course. Standard procedure for integrating new species. Give them enough to participate in galactic trade, but not enough to threaten established powers. Humans had studied the jump drives with intense focus. Their scientists had asked thousands of questions. They had reverse-engineered every component within the first decade. Council observers had noted their rapid learning, but had not been concerned. Every species reverse-engineered the technology eventually. What the reports had not mentioned was what humans did after they understood the Council's technology. Admiral, the human vessel is responding to our hail. Torvin straightened in his command seat. Put them through. The view screen flickered to life. A human woman appeared, middle-aged by their standards, with graying hair tied back in a practical knot. She wore a jumpsuit marked with cargo handler insignias. Behind her, Torvin could see a small bridge with minimal crew. "This is Captain Diana Ross of the Prairie Wind," the woman said with a smile. "You folks must be the council military I was told to expect. What can I do for you today?" The casual tone threw Torvin off balance. She spoke as if this were a routine customs inspection, not a confrontation between the galaxy's most powerful military and a ship demonstrating impossible capabilities. "Captain Ross," Torvin began carefully, "we have detected unusual energy signatures from your vessel. Our sensors indicate you are using propulsion technology not registered with Council databases." Diana's smile widened. "Oh, you mean the fold space manifolds? Yeah, those are new. We started installing them about 8 months ago. Real game changer for the shipping industry." Fold space manifolds. Torvin's translator provided the words but no context. His science officer was already searching databases, coming up empty. "These manifolds," Torvin said, "they allow you to bypass conventional jump drive limitations." "Bypass? Admiral, they make jump drives look like rowing boats." Diana laughed, apparently delighted by the comparison. "We can fold local spacetime to create instantaneous position shifts. No charge time, no cooldown period, no distance restrictions within a reasonable mass threshold. My cargo ship can dance circles around your dreadnought. No offense intended." No offense intended. As if she had not just casually informed him that civilian human vessels had rendered the entire Council military obsolete. "How did you develop this technology?" Torvin asked, keeping his voice level. Diana shrugged. "Trial and error mostly. See, when you folks gave us the jump drives, our scientists got real interested in the quantum mechanics behind it. We started playing around with the math, testing different configurations, combining your technology with some theoretical work we had been doing on our own." "On your own," Torvin repeated. "Sure, Earth physics never stopped just because we got alien technology. We had researchers working on quantum field theories, space-time manipulation hypotheses, all that fun stuff. Your jump drives gave us practical data to work with. We just kept building from there." Torvin felt a cold realization settling in his chest. The Council gave humans technology assuming they would use it as given. Instead, humans had treated it as a starting point. They had not just learned the technology, they had improved it beyond recognition. "Would you be willing to demonstrate these capabilities?" Torvin asked. "Happy to," Diana said cheerfully. "Give me a target location and watch your sensors." Torvin designated a point 50,000 kilometers from Prairie Wind's current position. "Move there." Diana touched a control. The Prairie Wind vanished from its position and appeared exactly where Torvin had specified. No acceleration, no energy buildup, no travel time. It was simply there. "Now let me show you the really fun part," Diana said. Her ship began moving again, but this time, Torvin's sensors registered something impossible. Prairie Wind appeared in 3 locations simultaneously, each image solid and real. His targeting computer tried to lock onto all 3 positions and failed catastrophically. "We call it quantum superposition navigation," Diana explained as her ship continued its impossible dance. "The fold space manifolds let us exist in multiple probable locations until we choose to collapse into a single position. Makes dodging asteroids a lot easier. Also makes pirates give up real quick." Torvin's tactical officer looked at him with wide eyes. "Admiral, I cannot target any of those positions. The computer does not know which one is real." "They are all real," Diana said, apparently monitoring their communications. "That is the point. Until I decide which position to commit to, the ship exists in all of them." Torvin made a decision. "Captain Ross, I need to be direct with you. This technology represents a significant shift in galactic power dynamics. The Council will have concerns about military applications. Diana's expression sobered slightly. Admiral, we are merchants. We move grain and textiles and medical supplies. We are not looking to start wars. We just wanted better ships so we could do our jobs more efficiently. You have better ships than anyone in the galaxy, Torvin said quietly. Then maybe, Diana replied, her smile returning, everyone else needs better ships too. We would be happy to share the technology, for fair trade agreements, of course. We are not a charity, but we are not conquerors either. She said it so simply, as if revolutionizing galactic civilization was just another business transaction. Torvin closed the communication channel and sat back in his command seat. His entire military career had been built on the assumption that Council technology represented the pinnacle of advancement. That assumption had just shattered like glass. "Get me a secure channel to Ambassador Rena," he ordered. "She needs to know what we are dealing with." What they were dealing with was a species that had taken 40 years to make the galaxy's most powerful military irrelevant, and they had done it while hauling grain. The Drellic Consortium representative slammed his appendage against the council table hard enough to crack the surface. Rena watched the fracture spread through the expensive imported stone and decided not to comment. This was no time for protocol lectures. 17%, the Drellic hissed through his translator. Our shipping revenues have dropped 17% in 6 weeks. 6 weeks since those human devils started using their impossible ships. Around the emergency economic session, other representatives shared similar horror stories. The Kelthran Transportation Guild reported 32% losses. Smaller species who had built their entire economies around niche shipping routes faced complete collapse. Rena pulled up the economic projections her staff had compiled. The numbers painted a catastrophic picture. Human shipping vessels were undercutting established trade routes by offering faster delivery at lower costs. They could do this because their fold space manifolds required minimal energy and no lengthy charge times. A human grain hauler could complete in 1 day what took council vessels a week. The math was simple and devastating. "We must regulate this technology," a Pelthon minister declared. "Impose restrictions on fold space usage in council-controlled space. Require permits, establish quotas." "On what legal grounds?" Rena asked tiredly. She had barely slept in 3 days. "Humans developed this technology independently. They are using it for legitimate commercial purposes. The Council cannot simply ban innovation because it disrupts existing markets." "We gave them jump drives," the Drellic spat. "They used our technology to build this abomination. That gives us rights." Rena shook her head. "Our legal experts have reviewed the original technology transfer agreements. The documents explicitly allow derivative works and independent research. We cannot claim ownership over human innovations." She did not mention that those clauses had been standard boilerplate, included in every first contact agreement for 10,000 years. Nobody had ever expected a new species to actually create something genuinely novel within a few decades. Admiral Torvin entered the chamber, looking even more exhausted than Rena felt. He had spent the past week trying to develop tactical responses to human ship capabilities. Based on his expression, the effort had not gone well. "What is the military assessment?" Rena asked, though she dreaded. The answer: Torvin activated a holographic display showing various combat scenarios. Each one ended the same way, with human vessels simply phasing out of danger while Council forces flailed uselessly. "We cannot target what we cannot predict," Torvin said bluntly. "Human ships using quantum superposition exist in multiple locations simultaneously. Our weapons are designed to hit singular targets. Even our most advanced tracking systems fail completely." "What about area effect weapons?" someone suggested. "If we cannot target precisely, we saturate the entire region." "That would violate 73 separate council regulations on warfare," Torvin replied. More importantly, it would not work. Human ships can simply fold to a different region before the weapons arrive. They move faster than light, faster than our targeting solutions, faster than our decision-making processes. Rena felt her secondary heart sinking. Are you saying humans could defeat the entire Council military? I am saying, Torvin spoke carefully, that traditional military engagement is no longer possible against human vessels. They have changed the fundamental rules of space combat. The chamber erupted in chaos. Representatives shouted over each other, demanding impossible solutions. The Drellic called for immediate military action before humans grew stronger. Others advocated for diplomatic isolation, economic sanctions, anything to slow human expansion. Rena let them argue. She had learned long ago that panic needed to exhaust itself before reason could emerge. Instead, she pulled up her personal research into human development. What she found disturbed her more than the ships. Humans had not stopped innovating. While the Council had been focused on fold space manifolds, human research institutions had published papers on gravity manipulation, atmospheric restoration, medical nanotechnology, and energy generation methods that made fusion look primitive. Each paper was publicly available. Humans shared their research freely through their academic networks. They did not classify discoveries or hide breakthroughs behind military secrecy. They simply published everything and invited peer review. The Council had missed it all because nobody had been watching. Why would they? Humans were supposed to be primitive merchants, grateful for Council guidance. Silence, Rena called out, her voice cutting through the noise. We need to understand what we are actually facing. She brought up her research on the main display. Humans have developed fold space manifolds, yes, but that is not their only innovation. In the past 50 years, they have made breakthrough discoveries in 17 major scientific fields. They are publishing research that makes our best universities look stagnant. How is this possible? A minister demanded. They were barely capable of fusion power when we found them. Because they never stopped asking questions, Rena said quietly. We gave them technology and assumed they would simply use it. They did use it, but only as a foundation for asking what came next. While we maintained our carefully controlled scientific establishment, humans built research institutions that encouraged wild experimentation and radical thinking. She pulled up a quote from a human scientist, translated into Council standard. The true measure of intelligence is not what you know, but what you do when you do not know. Humans have turned not knowing into their greatest strength. The chamber fell silent as the implication sank in. The Council had encountered many species across the millennia. Some were warlike, some peaceful, some technologically advanced, others primitive. But none had shown this particular combination of traits. Humans were not just innovative, they were relentlessly, systematically, dangerously creative. What happens when they apply this creativity to weapons? The Drellic asked quietly, his earlier rage replaced by something colder. Fear. I do not know, Rena admitted. But I know what happens if we treat them as enemies. We create a self-fulfilling prophecy. Right now, humans are traders and scientists. They seem genuinely interested in peaceful integration. If we attack them, if we try to suppress their technology, we turn them into something else. So we do nothing, Admiral Torvin asked. We simply allow them to reshape the galaxy. Rena looked at the economic projections, the military assessments, the research papers that proved human genius was just beginning to flower. The Council had maintained order through control. Humans had broken that model completely. We adapt, she said finally, or we become irrelevant. Her communication console chimed with a priority alert. Long-range sensors near the Sol system had detected something new, something massive under construction in orbit around Jupiter. Rena opened the data file and felt her blood run cold. The structure was enormous, larger than any space station the Council had ever built, and it was only partially complete. What are they building? Torvin whispered, looking at the same data. Rena had no answer, But she knew with terrible certainty that whatever humans were constructing in their home system would change everything again. The ships had been just the beginning. Diplomat Kesra had volunteered for the mission to Sol's system because someone needed to find out what humans were building before the Council made a catastrophic mistake. War with humanity would be suicide, but fear made people stupid. She had seen it happen across dozens of species throughout her career. Her diplomatic vessel dropped out of fold space near Jupiter. She still felt uncomfortable using human technology, but the Council's own ships would have taken 3 weeks to reach Sol. Humans had sold the fold space manifolds to anyone willing to pay fair market prices. Another inexplicable decision by an inexplicable species. The structure came into view, and Kesra felt her breathing sacs constrict. It was enormous. Massive platforms connected by frameworks that stretched for hundreds of kilometers. Construction drones swarmed across its surface like insects on a carcass. Energy signatures pulsed through conduits that had no equivalent in Council databases. This was a weapon, it had to be. Nothing else made sense. Her communication officer broke the silence. "Captain, we are receiving a hail from the construction site. They are welcoming us to Sol's system and offering a guided tour." A guided tour of their military superweapon. Kesra almost laughed at the absurdity. "Accept their invitation," she ordered, "and record everything." A human shuttle arrived within minutes, piloted by a man who introduced himself as Captain Robert Hayes. He was young for a human, perhaps 30 of their years, with an easy smile that seemed completely genuine. "Welcome to the Solar Cooperative Research Initiative," Hayes said as he guided them toward the massive structure. "We have been hoping the Council would send observers. This project is going to benefit everyone." Research Initiative. Kesra kept her expression neutral. "This facility is quite large for a research station." "Has to be," Hayes replied cheerfully. "We are bringing together scientists from 40 different species, plus dedicated space for 12 different environmental requirements. The methane breathers alone need 17 separate lab modules. Plus, we have got living quarters, recreational facilities, observation decks. When you are asking people to spend years in space, you need to make it comfortable." They docked at an airlock large enough to accommodate ships 10 times their size. Hayes led them through corridors that gleamed with fresh construction. Through viewports, Kesra could see vast chambers filled with equipment she did not recognize. "What is the purpose of this facility?" Kesra asked directly. Hayes stopped at a viewport overlooking the central hub. "The fold space manifold breakthrough taught us something important. When you share knowledge freely, when you bring different perspectives together, you get results that no single species could achieve alone. So we decided to build a place where scientists from across the galaxy could collaborate on the big questions." "What questions?" Kesra pressed. "All of them," Hayes said with genuine enthusiasm. "Faster-than-light communication, medical technologies that work across different biologies, energy generation methods that do not require scarce resources. We have got teams working on atmospheric restoration for damaged planets, gravity manipulation for space construction, even theoretical work on dimensional physics." He said it like it was normal, like building a facility to revolutionize multiple scientific fields simultaneously was just another Tuesday. "And you intend to share these discoveries?" Kesra asked carefully. Hayes looked confused. "Of course, that is the whole point. Science works best when everyone can build on everyone else's work. We publish everything, peer review across species, make sure the benefits spread as widely as possible." Kesra had to sit down. There was a bench nearby, clearly designed for multi-species use. She settled onto it and tried to process what she was hearing. "Captain Hayes," she said slowly, "your species has developed technology that makes you militarily invincible and economically dominant. You could demand anything from the Council. Instead, you are building a university." "Is that surprising?" Hayes asked, sitting beside her. "Look, I get that the Council is nervous about our ships, but we did not build them to conquer anyone. We built them because moving cargo slowly." is inefficient. When we figured out how to move faster, we started using faster ships. That is just practical. And this facility, Kesra gestured at the enormous structure around them. When we figured out fold space, we realized we were probably missing other discoveries too. Every species in the galaxy has been working on these problems from their own perspective, using their own physics models and mathematical frameworks. What if we combined all that knowledge? What could we discover together that none of us could find alone? The simplicity of it was staggering. Humans had not built a weapon. They had built a tool for collaborative discovery because they genuinely believed it would produce better results than working in isolation. The Council believes this is a military installation, Kesra said quietly. Hayes blinked in surprise. Why would? Because it is big and we have been secretive about construction. He ran a hand through his hair. We were not trying to be secretive. We just wanted to get the basic structure finished before we started inviting people. Easier to show than explain, you know. You should have informed the Council, Kesra said. Yeah, I can see that now. Honestly, it did not occur to us that you would think we were building a weapon. We have been publishing our research goals for months. Anyone who wanted to know what we were doing just had to ask. And there it was, the fundamental disconnect between humans and the rest of the galaxy. Humans assumed good faith, assumed shared knowledge, assumed everyone wanted the same things they wanted: progress, understanding, cooperation. The Council assumed competition, strategic advantage, hidden agendas. Captain Hayes, Kesra said carefully, what else has your species developed that you have not mentioned to the Council? Hayes pulled out a data tablet and started listing items. Well, there is the medical nanotech program that should eliminate most bacterial infections across carbon-based life forms. The gravity manipulation research that is going to make space construction way easier. We have got atmospheric processors that can restore breathable atmospheres to damaged planets in about 50 years instead of millennia. Oh, and a team just published a breakthrough on quantum entanglement communication that might give us real-time chat across any distance. Each item would have been a paradigm shifting. Discovery, Hayes listed them like groceries. Are these military technologies? Kesra asked. Hayes looked genuinely puzzled. Why would medical technology be military? I mean, I guess you could use the atmospheric processors on enemy planets, but that seems like a weird application. The goal is to help colonies thrive, not attack anyone. Kesra stood and walked to the viewport. Below, she could see Earth, the blue marble that had produced these impossible people. They had gone from primitive fusion rockets to reshaping galactic civilization in 50 years. Not through conquest or military might, but through relentless curiosity and a fundamental assumption that knowledge should be shared. The Council had spent 10,000 years maintaining order through controlled distribution of technology. Humans were destroying that model simply by being themselves. Captain Hayes, Kesra said, I need to contact the Council immediately, and you need to prepare a very detailed presentation about everything your species is working on. Because if you do not tell them yourselves, they will assume the worst. Hayes nodded seriously. I can do that. And Ambassador Kesra, tell them we really do want to work together. The galaxy is big enough for everyone to thrive. We just need to stop treating knowledge like a weapon and start treating it like what it is. A gift we all share. Kesra left the research station with more questions than answers. But one thing was clear. Humanity had not come to conquer the galaxy. They had come to fix it. Rena listened to Kesra's report in her private office, away from the chaos of the council chambers. When the diplomat finished describing the research station, Rena poured herself a glass of Kelthrin spirits and drank it in one swallow. They are serious about sharing everything, Kesra said over the communication link. Captain Hayes sent me 17 research proposals, medical nanotechnology that could extend lifespans across multiple species, energy generation methods that would make fusion obsolete, atmospheric restoration that could reclaim dead worlds. He sent them as attachments to a friendly message asking if we wanted to collaborate. Rena refilled her glass, The Council will not accept this. I know, Kesra replied quietly, but it gets worse. I asked Hayes why humans innovate so aggressively. He explained that Earth went through multiple near-extinction events. Climate collapse, resource wars, pandemic diseases. Their entire civilization almost died several times. So they developed a cultural obsession with solving problems before those problems became catastrophic. Survival instinct, Rena said. That makes sense. No, you do not understand. They did not develop survival instinct. They developed prevention instinct. Humans see a problem and immediately start working on solutions, even if the problem is theoretical or centuries away. They cannot help themselves. It is built into their psychology now. Rena thought about the implications. A species that treated potential future problems as current emergencies. A species that shared solutions freely because they assumed everyone faced the same threats. It was the opposite of how the Council operated. The Council maintained power by controlling access to solutions. Humans gave away solutions and assumed that made everyone stronger. I am sending you the research proposals, Kesra continued. You need to see them before the full Council meeting, because when they do, there is going to be panic. The files arrived in Rena's inbox. She opened the first one and started reading. Then she opened the second and third. By the time she finished the fifth proposal, she understood exactly what Kesra meant. Each proposal represented technology that would fundamentally restructure galactic civilization. The medical nanotechnology alone would eliminate the pharmaceutical industry as it currently existed. The energy generation methods would destroy the fuel trade. Atmospheric restoration would make terraforming companies obsolete. Dozens of powerful interests would collapse overnight if these technologies spread. And humans wanted to give them away for free, asking only for collaborative research partnerships in return. The Council chambers meeting 3 days later was the worst Rena had ever witnessed. She presented the research proposals and watched the room descend into chaos that made previous sessions look peaceful. This is economic warfare, the Drellic representative screamed. They are deliberately destroying our industries. They are offering to teach us their methods, Rena countered. That is not warfare, that is education. Same result, a Pelthun minister snarled. Our economies collapse, our power structures fall apart, our influence vanishes, whether they use weapons or technology. Humans are dismantling everything we built. Admiral Torvin stood and silence gradually fell. His presence commanded respect even in chaos. I have reviewed the military applications of human research, Torvin said heavily. If they chose to weaponize even a fraction of what they are developing, the Council would cease to exist within a year. They could deploy nanomedicine as a biological weapon, use gravity manipulation to tear ships apart, turn atmospheric processors into planet killers. The fold space manifolds are already beyond our ability to counter. Then we strike now, someone shouted, before they finish whatever they are building. With what? Torvin asked quietly. Our ships cannot catch theirs, our weapons cannot hit them, our sensors cannot track them. We have no military option against humanity. We never did. We just did not realize it until now. The truth settled over the chamber like ash. The Council had maintained galactic order for 10,000 years through carefully balanced power structures. Military force backed by economic control, supported by technological superiority. Humans had invalidated all three pillars simultaneously. And they had done it while humming cheerfully and offering to share. There is another issue, Rena said into the silence. Human merchant ships are already transforming galactic commerce. Species that have adopted their technology are thriving. The Vernic Trade Confederation saw a 40% economic growth in the last quarter. The Trell colonies are receiving supplies that were previously impossible to deliver. Frontier worlds that were struggling to survive are now prosperous. Because humans are undercutting our prices, the Drellic spat. No, Rena corrected. Because human technology made transportation so efficient that prices dropped naturally. They are not trying to destroy our industries. They are making those industries obsolete by offering something better. She brought up economic data on the main display. Species that resist human technology are falling behind. Those that embrace it are experiencing unprecedented growth. We are watching a fundamental shift in how galactic civilization operates. We can either adapt or become historical footnotes. You are suggesting we surrender, a minister accused. I am suggesting we stop thinking in terms of surrender and conquest, Rena replied sharply. Humans do not operate on that model. They see abundance, not scarcity. They share because they believe it makes everyone stronger, including themselves. They are not our enemies, they are our wake-up call. The Drellic representative slammed his appendage down again. We built this civilization. We established order from chaos. We cannot simply hand control to some upstart species that stumbled into space barely 50 years ago. We are not handing anything, Rena said tiredly. They are taking it, not through force, through being better at solving problems than we are. And unless we learn from them, unless we change how we approach innovation and cooperation, we will not survive the next century. Admiral Torvin nodded slowly. Ambassador Rena is correct. I have spent 3 weeks trying to develop military counters to human technology. There are none. But I have also reviewed their research proposals. If we collaborated with humans instead of competing against them, the Council could benefit enormously. Benefit how? Someone asked skeptically. Humans want research partners, Torvin explained. They want to combine our knowledge with theirs. They believe the Council's 10,000 years of scientific development could accelerate their own discoveries. They are not trying to replace us. They are trying to work with us. Rena saw understanding dawning on some faces. Not acceptance yet, but recognition that the old models no longer applied. The question, Rena said quietly, is whether we can change fast enough. Because with or without us, humanity is going to continue innovating, continue sharing, continue transforming the galaxy. We can be part of that transformation, or we can watch it happen from the sidelines. Her console chimed with a priority alert. She glanced at the message and felt her heart skip. There has been an incident at the frontier, she announced. A hostile force has attacked a neutral station. Council military forces cannot respond in time. The station will be destroyed within hours. The chamber fell silent. Everyone understood what this meant. The Council's carefully maintained peace was about to shatter, and they had no power to stop it. Then another message arrived, this one from Captain Diana Ross of the Prairie Wind. Human merchant vessels in the area are responding to the distress call, Rena read aloud. They are initiating emergency evacuation procedures. The Council watched their displays as human cargo ships did what the galaxy's most powerful military could not, and the rules changed forever. The frontier station Beacon 7 had been a symbol of Council authority for 300 years. Built at the edge of contested space, it served as a neutral meeting ground where rival species could negotiate disputes without warfare. Now it was dying, and 40,000 civilians were dying with it. The Vrench attack had been perfectly calculated. 3 warships had emerged from Fold space, launched their forbidden plasma weapons, and crippled the station's shields before anyone could react. Now the Vrench fleet maintained a blockade while the station's life support systems failed section by section. Council military forces were 6 hours away. The station had maybe 2. Diana Ross had been hauling agricultural equipment to a nearby colony when the distress signal reached her. She did not hesitate. Within 30 seconds, she had altered course and sent out a call to every human vessel within range. 17 ships responded. Cargo haulers, passenger transports, even a small research vessel. None of them were military, all of them carried Fold space manifolds. This is Captain Ross coordinating evacuation operations, Diana transmitted to the doomed station. We are going to get you out. Start organizing civilians by species environmental requirements. We will match ships to needs. The station's administrator, a Kelthran named Vess, responded with barely controlled panic. Captain Ross, the French have established a complete blockade. Nothing can get through their perimeter. Respectfully, Diana replied, we are not going through anything. She brought up a tactical display showing the French positions. 3 heavy warships in a perfect triangular formation covering all approach vectors. Textbook military strategy, impossible to penetrate with conventional ships. Humans did not have conventional ships. All vessels initiate quantum superposition navigation, Diana ordered. We are going to phase directly into the station's docking bays. Ignore the French blockade. Her crew looked nervous but determined. They had run evacuation drills before, though never under combat conditions. Diana had faith in them. Humans were excellent at adapting to emergencies. Prairie Wind folded space and appeared inside Beacon 7's main cargo bay. Around her, 16 other human vessels materialized in docking ports that had been empty seconds before. The French blockade had not registered their approach because they had not approached. They had simply skipped the intervening space. Diana opened a ship-wide channel. All crew, we have approximately 90 minutes before this station's reactor goes critical. Let's move, people. What followed was organized chaos. Human crews poured through the station's corridors, guiding terrified civilians toward the nearest compatible ship. The logistics were nightmarish. Different species required different atmospheres, different gravity levels, different temperature ranges. Humans adapted in real time. A cargo hauler designed for grain storage became an emergency shelter for methane-breathing Drellic families. A passenger ship reconfigured its environmental systems to accommodate high-gravity Vroth refugees. Diana's own ship took on 12 different species, cramming them into cargo holds and crew quarters and anywhere else that had breathable air. Outside the station, the French commander watched his sensors with growing confusion. The station should have been empty by now, its population dying as life support failed. Instead, energy signatures showed massive activity, but his blockade reported no ships had passed through. Scan the interior, he ordered. The results made no sense. Multiple ships were docked inside the station, ships that had not been there minutes ago, ships that could not possibly have passed his perimeter. Human vessels, his tactical officer reported. They are conducting evacuation operations. The French commander felt a cold fury building. Humans, the species that had disrupted galactic order with their impossible technology, the species that made military strategy obsolete. Target the station with all weapons, he ordered. If we cannot kill them slowly, we will kill them quickly. His weapons officer hesitated. Commander, there are civilians aboard. Council law forbids. Council law is dead, the commander snarled. Fire. Diana saw the weapons' signatures building on her sensors. The French were going to destroy the station with everyone still aboard. All ships emergency acceleration, she transmitted. We are leaving now. But they still had 8,000 civilians who had not reached the ships yet. 8,000 people who would die when the French fired. Unless humans did something impossible again. Expand quantum superposition fields to maximum radius, Diana ordered her crew. Include the entire station. Her engineer stared at her. Captain, that is not what the manifolds are designed for. We might lose coherence. We definitely lose 8,000 people if we do not try, Diana replied. Do it. 17 human ships simultaneously expanded their fold space fields until they overlapped, creating a massive bubble that encompassed the entire station. For a moment, Beacon 7 existed in multiple quantum states at once. Then Diana gave the command. Collapse all fields simultaneously. New coordinates, council space, safe distance from combat zone. Beacon 7 vanished. The French weapons, already launched, struck empty space. Their target had simply ceased to exist in that location, and reappeared 2 light-years away, surrounded by human merchant vessels. Inside the station, civilians stumbled in confusion. They had been dying, and then they were safe. Station Administrator Vess looked out his viewport at the Council military fleet that was just arriving, having taken 6 hours to reach the crisis. Human merchants had solved it in 90 minutes. Council ships found Beacon 7 intact and its population alive. They also found Diana Ross calmly transferring refugees to Council vessels better equipped for long-term species-specific care. Captain Ross, Admiral Torvin transmitted from his flagship, "You just transported an entire space station through fold space. That should not be possible." "It is not recommended," Diana admitted. "We stressed our manifolds pretty badly, going to need some maintenance, but the alternative was letting 40,000 people die, so we improvised." Improvised? As if casually breaking physics to save lives was just problem-solving. Torvin watched human crews working alongside Council military, organizing relief efforts, checking on refugees, making sure everyone had what they needed. No hesitation, no demands for recognition. Just people helping people because that was what you did in emergencies. The Vrench fleet had fled. They understood now what everyone was beginning to understand. You could not fight humans with weapons. They simply made the fight irrelevant. 6 months later, Rena stood in the council chambers as they voted to restructure the galactic government. The old model based on controlling scarcity was dying. The new model, inspired by human abundance thinking, was being born. It was not easy. Powerful interests resisted. Species accustomed to competition struggled with cooperation. But the economic data was clear. Civilizations that worked with humans thrived. Those that did not fell behind. Rena had been appointed to lead the Transition Council. Her first act was to accept humanity's offer of research collaboration. The Solar Cooperative Research Initiative welcomed its first council scientists, who arrived nervous and left inspired. Captain Robert Hayes gave Rena a tour of the completed facility. It was magnificent, a symbol of what different species could achieve together. "You know what I find funny?" Hayes said as they looked out at the stars. "The Council spent 10,000 years maintaining order by controlling who had access to technology. You thought scarcity was the natural state, so you managed it carefully." "And humans proved us wrong," Rena said quietly. "Not wrong exactly," Hayes replied. "Just incomplete. Scarcity exists when everyone hoards knowledge, but when everyone shares, abundance becomes possible. We did not disrupt your civilization. We showed you there was another way." Rena thought about the changes sweeping across the galaxy. Medical technology saving billions of lives. Energy systems making scarcity obsolete. Ships that made distance irrelevant. All of it developed and shared freely by a species that had joined galactic civilization barely 50 years ago. "The galaxy needed a warrior species," she said, repeating words she had heard from a human teacher. Hayes smiled. "The galaxy needed humans. Warriors would have conquered. We just wanted everyone to have better ships." And in that simple statement, Rena understood why humanity had changed everything. They had not sought power. They had sought solutions. They had not built weapons. They had built tools. They had not conquered the galaxy. They had fixed it. Below them, Earth turned in its orbit, the blue marble that had produced these impossible people. The species that looked at the universe and saw not threats to overcome, but problems to solve together. The Council had fallen into panic because humans had ships they were never meant to have. But humans had taught them something more important than fear. They had taught them hope,